Jeremy Affeldt, Built for the Storm podcast. I have been introduced. Here's why it took me a while. Because me and Tony, my boy that's walking me through all this stuff, we tried to get YouTube to go live with it as well. And by the time we got through to them, they said, congratulations, you only have 23 hours and 59 minutes till you can actually go live. That's great. So I got a congratulatory note from YouTube saying I got to wait 24 hours. So I'm just on Instagram Live. That's all I am right now. I apologize. I know the press kit went out, the release went out and said, hey, it's going to be YouTube, it's going to be Instagram. So we're doing the best we can. We're going live on Instagram, and next time we'll be on all of them. We'll figure it out. We'll get the kinks worked out. This is episode 1, and I'm super pumped because I don't have a guest. So that means I get to just rant. Pretty fired up. So I'm thinking about what I want to rant about, right? I'm trying to think about it. And I figured it out. Y'all know I'm against analytics. Y'all know that I'm always on them. I'm always harping on stuff because there's a big reason why you shouldn't only go analytics. And I know people are starting to make the adjustment. They're not analytics. They kind of go with feel with some analytics. It's kind of back and forth. And I got to go into spring training this year because we got invited back. So we'll just call it the previous regime. I don't really know what else you want to call it. Didn't allow us in. They didn't invite us in for 4 years. From 2017 or whatever it was, 2018 to 2024, we were not. I didn't get to go to spring training. I didn't really get to go in the clubhouse. They didn't want us in there. They took down the pictures and the photos of all the historical scenarios. They just wanted a whole new skit. So we were not allowed. We were not allowed to be in the clubhouse. And I think it was because they were afraid that they'd be like, hey, Jeremy, what do you think you should do? And I would say, grow a pair of cojones and freaking dominate some fools. That's what I would do. What about my curveball? What about my spin rate? I don't know anything about that. I just know you got to think you're better than the other guy. Like, that's all I know. I know how to finish a pitch. I know how to compete. I got to believe that I'm better than the other guy. Throw a few scuds. We all know I did that. I throw some scuds in the dirt. I kind of throw some balls because I don't give hitters a lot of credit, and I think they'd swing at the rosin bag if you threw it at them. I really do. I really think that's what would happen. So I kind of don't know if they wanted us in there giving that advice because I want to go with my gut, right? I want to go with that. I know which guys are ready, which guys aren't. I know which guys have the courage to go out there at the time. I know all of that. And what we talked about sometimes might be the same. I was starting to kind of think about the scenarios, and I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't be so hard on analytics. Maybe they just said it differently. Maybe they just were like, hey, we talk hot zones, cold zones. I remember one time doing a set with Tolbert, and I was like, well, Bumgarner can throw to all 6 of the quadrants. And I remember Tolbert laughing. He's like, there's no such thing as 6 quadrants. That's why it's called quadrants. I was like, that's a good point. However, there's 4 zones. There's upper left, upper right, lower left, lower right. Then there's the kind of middle left, middle right. So there is more than just quadrants, but we would say, where are their hot and cold zones? That's what we wanted to know. We didn't want to know, hey, man, based on this guy's, lift rate or spin rate. Like, I just wanted to know where I should throw a pitch and where I shouldn't throw a pitch. And then they would say things like, hey, be careful on curveballs of this guy. He can hit a curveball. Whose curveball? My curveball? CC Sabathia's curveball? Kershaw's curveball? Whose curveball can he hit? Because they can't hit all curveballs. He might have a curveball bat speed, or he might have a curveball recognition, but that doesn't mean he could hit my curveball. So I would go back. I'd look at video, and I'd be like, okay, like I see a similar curveball to mine. He's hitting that pretty good, or he's not. I'm still going to throw it, or I'm not. I'll go to the split. I'll stay hard sinkers. I'll stay away from them. Those are the kind of things I looked at. I didn't have any idea on, hey, the launch angle on this hitter, he's going to want to hit this pitch here. And if you can keep your spin rate at this, and then maybe maximize your degree of tilt, like that just seems like a lot to me. It seems like a lot. And so it was really hard for me to jump on board with all these analytical approaches. A computer telling me how to throw, when to throw, who I should throw to, who I shouldn't throw to, didn't seem like a lot of sense, because then you have a manager, say like Bochy, that has been a part of this game for 30 freaking years. 30 years. He's been a part of World Series as a player and as a manager. He has a feel for the game. He likes to play the chess match. And then you just handing him a piece of paper saying, well, basically on the computer saying, this is who you should play. Or maybe I would play that guy, but his hamstring's a little tight right now, or his oblique's a little tight, or frankly, he's swinging a wet newspaper through the strike zone. Like I understand based on the computer, this might make sense, but not based on where he's at physically. So I don't want to do it. Or, hey, Jeremy should pitch today. He should face these guys, except for he's got some random injury. His groin hurts, his oblique hurts, his back hurts, neck hurts. Or I watched him throw the last 3 games and he can't hit the broadside of a barn. So maybe based on that, maybe we need to get him to work a little bit more. Maybe we should pitch him in a less intense situation to maybe back off the pressure because he's just not feeling it. Those are the kind of things that computer has no knowledge of. It doesn't have a feel for the human side. It does not. So I'm not all for analytics. Doesn't mean I'm fully against them right now. I'm just not all for them. So going into spring training, Buster calls us, and he called us in the offseason. We were all ecstatic. Everybody was. I was. I'm sure a lot of guys were that knew him and knew how he thinks. He does. He has some analytical background in the sense of probably how he thinks about the strategy of the game, but he also knows makeup. He knows how to read the player. He knows how the character of a player. He knows what he's looking for in players. I remember having conversations with him a lot on the bench. Sometimes I'd like a certain guy, and I'd be like, man, I really like this guy. And he's like, why? I'm like, what do you mean, why? Well, he does this, he does this, he does this. He's like, yeah, but in these situations, he doesn't do that. Do you want him in this situation? Or do you want him in that situation? Anybody can hit with no one on, but with somebody on, how does he hit? And so you look at that, because I look at a guy maybe hitting 220 and say, I don't know if I'd want him at the plate, except for he has 90 RBIs. So maybe he doesn't hit well with no one on base, but when someone's on, somehow he drives in runs. So I think that there's a lot of approaches that Buster has. And so I was really, really excited when he got brought on as the president, and I called him and I congratulated him. And I said, are you ready? He said, I don't know. And obviously he's new to the skit, but I knew he could do it. I knew he was a good leader. Some of these players he had played with, the game's fresh in his mind. He's not separated too far away from it. He was around when they started to bring in some of the analytics, so he kind of understood what they were trying to do rather than have to be caught up on it. So I think overall it was a great decision. And so when he called me in January, it might have even been December, he was like, hey, I'd like to bring some of y'all in. You don't have to do it. I can completely understand if you've got other stuff going on. Don't feel like you have to say yes, but I'd love to have you around the guys. I'd love you to have you around the coaching staff and just kind of have you back in the fold a little bit again, because I want to bring some of these guys back. And I was more than willing to do it. And then seeing they brought Javi back, and Vogie's kind of been in the system. Javi's been on TV, but, back in uniform, and Pence and Casilla, bringing him around some of the guys. And then you saw Pablo in there. You saw Bonds in there. So I think for me, I really appreciate what he's trying to do. He was trying to bring some of the history back, some of the guys back that understood the game from a different perspective and can kind of talk to the guys and maybe even try to learn a little bit. And so I went in with a pretty fresh mind, and I went in with an open mind. And I was against analytics, but I was like, this is the perfect time to do it. Because instead of being against the analytics, instead of saying, the analytics are stupid, which I was doing a lot, I said, well, I'm going to learn about the analytics, right? I'm going to learn. I'm going to ask why. I'm going to ask questions. And so I walked in, and I remember walking into the clubhouse. And by the way, the clubhouse they're in now, nothing like the clubhouse we got. The gyms are nothing. We had like this one floor gym that was like, I don't know, 50 feet wide by maybe 60 feet long, which is a good sized gym, but in a big league clubhouse, now they got a double decker gym with garage doors, unbelievable sound system. Our sound system was like a Bluetooth boombox stuck in a corner. They got these sound systems like a rock concert. They got cardio upstairs. You can look down on the gym downstairs. They got the garage doors opening. They got mounds sitting right out there to do towel drills with. They got we used to have the cold tub where it was just like a tin tub with a motor and a fan in there that spun around and ice. That was the cold. Now they have like cold plunges that are the size of hot tubs. They got hot tubs. They got a Swimex that is like 7 treadmills wide. They can run on them in the underwater. I mean, it's an incredible setup. What they're doing is pretty amazing. So just taking all that in and just realizing how the game has changed in the last 10 years forced me to actually ask why. And is it helping or is it not helping? Or is it a little bit of both? For me, I don't know yet. I know I got to walk into the coach's room, and all of a sudden we got coaches sitting at the table with all their iPads, and they got their scorecards, and they got these scorecards, and they're giving dots and for this and blue dots for that and 2 red dots or 2 green dots based on hitting or fielding or pitching, and they're drawing them all on this scorecard whiteboard, and I had no idea what was going on. It took me about 1 or 2 days finally asking questions to understand how they were evaluating. And I, at first, was kind of rolling my eyes or laughing, but then I started to understand it. And I was like, all right. So it's a scorecard, but it's an accountability scorecard. And it talks about great hitters and how they hit. How is their approach at each at bat? How is their approach on other fielding? Were they lazy? Were they not pitchers? Were they backing up bases? Were they not backing up bases? Did they cover the bunt zone or did they not cover the bunt zone? Did they make a good pitch on an 0-2 count? Did they finish guys off in a 2-2? They throw wipeout sliders. I actually appreciated that, and I would laugh from time to time because I told everybody, I said I didn't understand how they would maybe. I was a little bit interested in how they would score me, and there's a couple coaches that I'd played with or against, and they said probably not very well. Yeah, so I don't know I don't know if I would have made the team based on their scorecard. I would have no idea. I probably would have got released, so I'm kind of glad for that. But it did make sense on how they were talking to the guys and how they were holding them accountable, and how how these guys can see and these coaches can evaluate based on entire month evaluation rather than an outing to outing or a day to day. It was in a month-long deal. So I could see how that works. So I was impressed. And there was one guy in there, and he was definitely not a coach. He was probably more of a techie guy. We'll call him that, the techie guys. I'm trying to be politically correct. But he was pretty funny, right? And I was messing with him, and I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, well, I kind of do the analytical side. And I'm like, oh, you're one of those guys? And he looked at me, he goes, yeah, I'm one of those guys. I kind of said, all right. I said, well, I'm against it. He's like, have you ever seen it? I'm like, no, but I've heard about it. And it doesn't make sense to me based on the way you guys are talking. And he's like, well, why don't you come in here, come into the room we're in? I want to show you some stuff. I'll blow your mind. Oh, you're going to blow my mind? You know what blows my mind? An 0-2 curveball, a 3-2 curveball on the black. That blows my mind. That blows my mind. 3-2 curveball on the black blows, not a computer. He's like, why don't you come in here? I want to show you some stuff. And I was like, what are you going to show me? He goes, well, I can show you where the skeletal side. I can show you how pitchers, when I can bring any photo or any video of a pitcher pitching, and I can actually bring it in, and I can look at the skeletal makeup, and I can show you where their arm drops or raises and where they maximize velocity based on the arm angle that they put themselves in, or the hitting or the way they put themselves in a hitting position where it'll maximize bat speed or how they make great contact. Piqued my brain. Piqued it. I was like, oh, I might be into that because you're showing me something. You're not telling me something. You're not saying what the computer says. You're saying, let me show you what the computer shows you and how you can become consistent. That completely different deal. Because I see that differently. I can see it. I can make it. I can make an adjustment. I can get. I can see where if my arm's here versus here or too high, where everything changes or my movement changes. That I can build a mechanic around. That I can build a delivery with. But if you just say, oh, your spin rate's got to be this, or your curveball's got to be this, or your spin rate on your breaking ball has to have this angle, I don't know how to do that unless I know how to fix my arm angle. So that I'll be willing to work with. There's a little bit of a rant, so I'm pumped. So I'm a little more open. And then so I started just watching guys. I started watching how guys did it in spring training. Then all of a sudden I go out to the bullpens and these got these like it's a golf simulator type scenario, but they have them for pitching and it tracks everything. It tracks their arm speed, it tracks their breaking ball, it tracks the angles, it tracks everything. And so now I'm kind of excited because I'm like, oh man, this stuff's gonna work. I actually think that this makes sense. So I started watching bullpens. And you know what I saw? I saw veteran players. I saw mid-level veteran guys. I saw young guys throwing a bullpen, and they would throw a pitch, and before the pitch would hit the freaking glove, they'd be turning around looking at the screen to see what the angle was, what the speed was, what the arm rate, the spin rate was, breaking down all these things, showing release. They have this camera that runs at like 100,000 frames per second, showing the release of the pitch, and they talk about it. And I had one question. I started talking. I said, well, did you see where the pitch was at? No, you didn't, because you threw it and just looked at the TV. Or they'd throw it, hit perfect. I mean, they'd spot it up on the corner and they'd still look at the TV wanting to know, like, what does that say? What did that say? I don't know. What did it feel like? It looked good, felt good, sounded good. Pretty sure it was good. Like, repeat that. If you're having a hard time repeating it, then we can talk about it. But they want to do it after every single pitch. And it was driving me. I finally had to walk off. I couldn't even stomach some of that stuff because we're no longer going with feel. We're going with what a computer says. Problem in a big league ball game, on the mound, game 100 or 162 or game 3 in the NLCS or ALCS or AL or NLDS or game 7 in the World Series, do you think when the crowd's getting into it and the pressure's getting packed and it's getting intense and your heart rate is running and you throw a pitch, do you think you have the ability to say timeout? Can I see a TV screen to see where my arm slot was at right there? Or my how do I make an adjustment when I don't have a feel because I just all of a sudden want to depend on a screen to tell me every time, and then I make an adjustment and then I go into a game? Things change in the game. Your arm angle will change in the game. The pressure of the game will cause you to maybe be a little quicker or a little later, or you're jumpy. How do you make adjustments then if you don't have a plan? If you don't have a mental plan, if you don't have a mental approach to the game, how do you make adjustments? Because there is no screen for you out on that mound. So I'm not really for it right now. I'm not for that part of it. If you want to work on mechanics and developing mechanics, showing arm slot, working the skeletal side, I get it. But not when you're just going with numbers all the time. The exit velo. I remember I was doing a game in St. Louis, and me and John Miller were doing this game, right? And he hits this ball, and exit velocity was like stupid. It was like, let's just say it was 110 or whatever, launch angle. And John Miller's like, and all of a sudden the guy catches it in center field. And John was like, man, the exit velo and the exit velocity said that ball should have went, 420 feet, and he hit it perfect, and yet the center fielder caught it. And I was like, yeah, John, because there's things called wind and rain and like atmosphere. The computer doesn't tell you everything. It might tell you that should have went out in other ballparks. Well, guess what? It didn't here. You hit it high and there's wind, don't hit it high. It's going to get knocked down. It doesn't tell you everything. It is not always perfect. You can't go off of all those things. Other analytical stuff, shifts. Thank God that they already made an adjustment on shifts, because they started bringing shifts in when I was playing. And Wotus, he'll attest to it. Wotus and I got into it all the time. I hated shifts. Because they said, well, the numbers say, based on all of these numbers, that he's going to hit it up the middle. He's going to hit it up the middle. If you throw these pitches away, he has a tendency to hit up the middle. So let's play there. If I throw the ball to that location, I had no idea. If I was that good, I'd be Maddox. If I was that good, I'd be Kane or Bumgarner or Verlander or CC Sabathia or Brandy Johnson. If I was that good, I'd be flying in private jets and I'd have a freaking fifth wheel behind my truck. I got a tent camper. That's what I got because I wasn't that good. So you got to think about all that. I needed guys to be in their area. because I'm going to throw a sinker. I'm going to throw it up there. I'm going to try to throw it away. Most of the time, I could do it when I absolutely need to, but I depended on movement, down in the strike zone, and weak contact. I could not guarantee where guys would hit a ball. So what would happen is we'd have play guys up the middle, and there'd be a 40-foot hole at shortstop, and a guy would hit the ball because I'd miss a sinker and I'd miss into a lefty, and maybe he would jam himself instead of rolling over. He'd be late, and he'd hit a 6-hopper into shortstop where you're thinking easy out, and there's nobody there. Or you shift them the other way, and I throw a sinker, and I'm supposed to throw it into a righty, and I throw it away, and he goes with it, and he hits it in the hole because there's no second baseman. And the argument was, well, it's the tendency. So the tendency for what? Well, the tendency where he's going to hit a ball, so we got to play it shade, not shift. And then they say they place the shortstop right behind second base. I give up a rocket. I got a duck to get out of the way. The shortstop's right there. He feels it, throws him out. And then the comment was, well, guess you're happy about the shift there. But I should have got beat. He hit a rocket. I don't want to get beat on a 6-hopper. I don't mind getting beat on a rocket. I don't mind getting beat on a ball that I missed up with, and he hit a line drive, and there happened to be a guy there. That doesn't help me pitch. I don't want to get beat on a ball that when I jam a guy or get him to hit the top of a baseball or hit off the end of the bat and he hits a ground ball, that's what I don't want to get beat on. So shifts didn't make sense to me. Shading, yes, but you still got to make the athletes be athletes. The second baseman, shortstop need to be able to make adjustments based on a non-perfect world, which we are far from. In baseball, if they're going to tell you anything, we're not perfect and we fail all the freaking time. So shifts don't make sense to me unless you're real good. Maddox put his own shifts on. Maddox told guys where to move over. He'd say go a foot to the left, but he could hit his spot. That's not a reliever. That's not a lot of pitchers. So taking that away is the best thing that they did in baseball because it keeps guys from overshifting and being able to make pitches and not have to be so perfect, which caused guys to walk a lot of guys because they felt like they had to be perfect rather than throw a strike. Keep it down, get weak contact, let your position players play. And that's what I was all about. And that's why I'm super pumped about them removing the shift. And the shift, by the way, did nothing but take away a single. If Albert Pujols or Goldschmidt or name the big time players, Poppy or Judge or all these guys, if they hit a single on a weak ground ball or a single on a ground ball, I win. I just didn't want to give up a 4-bagger. So you shifting to keep a single from happening doesn't do anything for me. But if we overshift and I beat him and he gets a single, it didn't matter. You didn't take away anything. I beat him, he won, rather than I threw a bad pitch and he beat me. I would rather go with the I beat him and I win scenario, not I beat him and he wins. That it really was mind-boggling, and it was a guess. It was a guesstimate based on tendencies, and you can't always do that because not all pitchers are the same, and not all hitters see pitchers the same way. So that's why analytics don't make a lot of sense to me. They don't. You literally you can't focus on all that. Then you have the bullpen analytics, right? Like which guy do I throw when? And you saw it. You saw it with the Giants for so many years with Kapler and those guys. They would throw they throw a guy in the 8th and they throw him in the 2nd. Then they have a starter or whatever, an opener or whatever. They take a bullpen guy and let him throw 1 inning start, switch him out, then put another starter. What are we doing? That makes no sense. So for 162 games, we're going to tell a bunch of relievers, hey, I have no idea when you're going to pitch. You're going to pitch 1 through 9. Be ready. Makes no sense. They have to be ready. A starter gets his start day. Even if you want to throw this stupid opener deal out there, right? I'm going to open a guy and then put my starter in the 2nd inning. He still knows he's starting that day. A reliever doesn't always know when they're going to pitch, but I'll tell you what I do know. When I played, I knew when the opportunity was for me to pitch. Not you can pitch, hey, we're going to put you in the 8th, and then we're going to pitch you in the 1st, or we're going to pitch you in the 3rd, and then maybe the 9th, just depending on analytics or who's up or when there's strategy to get out that inning. That is mind-boggling to me. In the playoffs, I'm all for it. You want to pitch me in the 1st, pitch me in the 1st. You want to pitch me in the 3rd, pitch me in the 3rd. You want to pitch me in the 7th, pitch me in the 7th. If that's momentum, we have 5 to 7 games, depending on the division or the series that you're playing. Then you throw me whenever you got to throw me, because we got to do this. We got to win 3 or we got to win 4. So we just got to win whenever we can win. I'd be all for that, but not for 162 games and think they're going to be mentally ready, physically ready, and be able to have stamina, because they're either getting overthrown or they're not getting thrown when they should. And then they're getting sent out constantly because you're on a roving door, because you want to use up the option strategy, or you want to, hey, analytics says this pitcher should pitch against these teams, but when these teams aren't here, put them down AAA. So now you're bouncing these guys back and forth over AAA in the big leagues. Their families trying to keep up with them. They're flying them back and forth around the country to the minor leagues, to the major leagues. Then you never know when you're going to pitch in that game. You don't have a idea. There's no known mental preparation. And then you're saying that you need to be the best. There's no preparation. So the sports psychologists that make a lot of money, that have figured out a lot of things, and David Cook is one of my favorite guys, by the way. I'm going to do a shameless plug. David Cook, he wrote 7 Days in Utopia. He wrote the book called Greatness. They made a movie on the 7 Days of Utopia. Robert Duvall was in it. Great movie, better book. Wrote the book on Greatness. Amazing things on how he helped the Spurs out when they were in their run in the 90s, when they were just a powerhouse of a team. Then you had Baylor when they won the national championship. He was their guy then. He's a huge guy for the PGA golfers. He does stuff for Olympics athletes. He started helping baseball players. He helped me out when I was having a mental problem. And you know what he said? You got to see it, you got to feel it, and you got to trust it. See who you're facing. So learn to visualize before you get out there, so your brain knows. And you can almost have deja vu. You can calm yourself down. And then what does it feel like to make those pitches to that guy? So when you're facing him, you're making that pitch, and then trust it. You just let it go. But if I don't know what to see, if I don't know the situation I'm supposed to see it in, or I can't be present, or like, okay, the 7th inning, close my eyes and the chaos and try to mentally prepare. I have to mentally prepare for a first inning, or a 6th inning, or a 4th inning, or an 8th inning. It doesn't make sense for execution. Your body can't work like that. They have to have an idea. They have to have roles to be able to execute appropriately, where they can do it 80, 90% of the time. And when you're available every game or any time during the game and you don't know when, that is a hard task to put on a bullpen. It's a hard task. So they have to stay away from that. Sometimes it's gut. Sometimes it's courage. Sometimes it's what kind of makeup are there. I will guarantee you that the computer did not tell me, hey, or did not tell Boach, you know what's a good idea? Let's put Jeremy in game 7, inning 2. Probably wouldn't have said that. Facing these, there's some lefties, but there was righties. There's Billy Butler hitting like 400. Like, I had to face all these guys. Kane, I had to face a lot of these guys that the computer might have said, maybe not a good idea now, but you want to save them till later. We knew we had Javi. And it's game 7. And it's game 7. There is no game 8, but the computer wouldn't have said it. But you know why Boach did it? Because his gut said, this is when Jeremy needs to pitch. Because my mental makeup, because my mental approach, because how I saw the game, my veteran status in the sense of, like, I've seen it. I've been there a lot. I've been in 14 years. I've been in pretty much any situation you can possibly be in. And I've been through the World Series. We all have. That bullpen down there was a veteran bullpen. They were ready to go. He knew he'd be ready to go. That's why he did it. Not because of computer, not because of some analytical piece of paper, or some guy ran it down from a computer and saying, this is what the printout shows. Here's the numbers. It's because I think Jeremy can handle it. I think Bum can handle. You think the computer would have said, hey, Bum just threw a complete game in game 5, give him a day off, and then throw him in the 5th inning through the 9th? You think the computer would have said, do that? No. Boach had a gut. Boach looked at Bum in the eye and said, can you do it? Bum said yes. Boach trusted it. He ran with it. He told me to be ready. Can I be ready in the 2nd inning or 3rd inning or whenever he needs to be ready? Because I need you to be ready earlier in the game. With Hudson, I got to put you in right number 2. This is how I want to do it. Can you do it? I said yes. He looked me in the eye. He trusted it. We're ready to go because he knew the mental makeup, not analytics. So you can't always go with that. There are times when you're like, hey, man, statistically, he does pretty good against him. The numbers that we see, his numbers are pretty good. Whatever reason, he hits a $180 off of Javi, but he hits 400 off of Affeldt. We're probably going to put Javi in right here in this situation with runners on 2nd, 3rd, needing a big out or needing a punch out because he doesn't see. Those things I understand, but not complete just analytical data saying when you should play somebody and when you shouldn't by a computer printout. I want numbers, I want statistics, and I also want gut. Because if that guy hit 400 off me and he hits 180 off Javi, but Javi's got a lower back problem and he can't finish his pitch and Boch knows it, he's probably not going to pitch him right there because he's not feeling good. It's just, he knows it, but the computer doesn't know that. They're just going to print it out. They don't understand the human side. And that's what we have to get back to. We have to get back to managers, players, understanding the game. Coaches understanding the game, not just the computer printout numbers. One of my favorite Pablo is good. I love Pablo at third. No problem with Pablo. One of my favorite third basemen ever in the big leagues was Joe Randa. You remember Joe Randa? Probably not, because if you're not 46, you probably don't remember him. Joe Randa, third baseman for the Royals, Detroit Pirates. That guy would always shade the line at third base when I pitch. At that time, I didn't have a sinker. I had a four-seam that cut. I had a curveball that went in to a righty and away from a lefty, and I had a split change that kind of dove. Guys pulled it a lot from the right side. He would always shade the line, and I give up absolute freaking rockets. And he'd stop him. He'd just stop, and he'd be there every time. And I finally looked at him, and I was like, hey, how do you always stop a ball? They're hitting missiles. He's like, because your four seam cuts into a righty away from a lefty. They're cheating on you on the right side. They know it. They know you're coming into them. Lefties know you're staying away from them. Your curveball goes down and into them. Everything says hit it down the third base line. And instead of sitting and watch rockets go by me, I'm just going to stand in front of them. The problem, Affeldt, is please get weak contact. They're hitting it 150 at me. I need you to give it a 6 hopper. My hand's killing me. My palm's killing me. My chest is killing me. I'm pretty sure Joe didn't even wear a cup at third unless I pitched. Put a cup on, okay, because he needed to. Like, he knew the game because he observed the game. He didn't have this little thing on his quarterback wrist of looking at where they should shade and close. He didn't have to look at a coach to ask where he should go, and he just went where the coaches told him to go. He paid attention to the game. Joe Panic told me I asked him about analytics. He said no. He said it's good in some ways, bad in others. And at second or short, you should be able to sit back there and be. He says Joe even told me I used to get into it coaches in New York and Toronto because they'd say, why aren't you playing here, or why aren't you doing where I asked you to play, or I asked you to go over there and you shade it back the other way. Why'd you do that? And he's like, because I watched our pitcher. And I saw that he was actually leaking, and balls were leaking out over, so he wasn't going to hit it up the middle. If this guy was going to hit it, he was going to hit it to my left side from the right side, and I wanted to be over there. I'm watching him pitch. He's not pitching as good. He's not feeling it. He's not getting that finish, and that's being a old school player that understands analytics, but plays to the feel of the game. We have to get people like that again. And what I'm seeing from the Giants is we're starting to do that. We're starting to get a feel. We're starting to get coaches that have played in the game in the major leagues, have a feel for the game. Then we're teaching the players how to feel for the game. We're getting some old school thoughts. We're taking away the crutch. We're not using as much analytics. We're forcing them to see it. You're starting to see the pitchers they have roles a little bit more in the bullpen. You see that they're letting them pitch a little longer in the games, not pulling them after the fourth every freaking time. They're letting them go. And Melvin is saying, hey, if the kid's got a feel, he's got a feel. It doesn't matter what the computer says. It feels good. I'm going to let him pitch, and I'm going to let him play. What does that do? That allows guys to have confidence, stay in the big leagues longer, know they can get through it, be on teams longer, stay around. What does that do? When you have the same guys on the team and you're not doing a roving door, fans will come watch you play. Why? Because they see you develop. They see your personality. They see how hard you compete. They fall in love with you. They feel like they know you because they see you in all these games, and there's not like a new regime of like bullpen pitchers coming up every other series. They actually get to know because you're getting to compete. And when you feel like coaches trust you, you will get better. You will succeed. You'll stay in the big leagues longer. You'll start winning, which translates staying with the team, which allows you to be around, and you'll win more ball games because you understand the rhythm. That's what analytics doesn't allow you to do if you stay there on the analytical side. You have to be able to have a feel for the game and teach these kids what the game is like. It's built on failure. I don't like saying that word because I believe failure are teachable moments. But if you can get these guys to learn and to stay in the big leagues and to get through tough times and get through hard times and learn how to deal with, with failure or with unfavorable outcomes, to see where they're at mentally instead of shipping them out every time, or when they're doing really good, you still move them out so they feel like they have no chance, because no matter what they do, they're going to get moved out because they haven't become under a big contract type pitcher or type position player. It's not fair to the player. It's not fair to the development of the player, and it's not fair to the development and the way a team can succeed. They have to succeed based on teamwork, connection, rhythm, understanding each other, understanding the clubhouse, understanding how you're supposed to lead in the clubhouse. Fans love you. Front office loves you. You love each other on the field. You're connecting. You're working. That's awesome. And that's how it should be. And you can't get there with analytics. You can get there with grit. You can get there with tenacity. You can get there with just competing and getting through it. You can get there with guys jumping your butt a little bit and saying, hey, snap out of it. Start working harder here. Quit being lazy. Being a part of a team, running that gauntlet together. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Not a computer telling you how to do it. Players holding each other accountable and knowing where they need to be at. That's how you play this game. And use some analytics to help you get better, help you understand maybe pitch selection, what you should be hitting, what you should be swinging at, what maybe a tendencies, analytic for tendencies. Yes. Analytics for guarantee. Absolutely not. And you will not tell me different. Built for the Storm podcast, episode 1. Had a great time. That's my rant. I will have a bunch more of these rants. I actually like the rants. I will be back. Once again, I'll have guests sometimes. I'll go on my own personal rants. We should have a lot of fun. Thanks for bearing with us. Thanks for hanging with me. I appreciate you guys. And welcome to Built for the Storm podcast, episode 1 in the books. Boom.